Welcome everyone to the YouTube channel for elevationprocess.com. Very exciting. This is the first video that we're going to be posting here. And the idea behind this is basically just to introduce myself, who I am, give a little bit of discussion about exactly what elevation process is all about and what you can kind of expect from us moving forward. So for those of you that haven't visited elevationprocess.com or the website, I'll link it in the video below. Basically, this is a project that I've been working on for several years now, and it's finally come to fruition. So I'm very excited to finally have this project off the ground and to be sharing it with all of you. So, elevation process. What are we all about? Well, as I mentioned before, my name is Brandon Ulmer. I'm fortunate enough to work as a psychologist in the Canadian province of Alberta. I work a lot within the public health system, and specifically with folks that are having difficulty with depression, anxiety, things like chronic pain, that kind of stuff. I noticed early on, while I was working within the public health system, that we did not do a very good job of managing some of the difficulties that people showed up with, specifically depression, anxiety, things like chronic pain, etc. So this project, elevationprocess.com, is really my attempt to answer a simple question. And that question is, what can I do to help? What else can I do to kind of spread the idea and to help folks that are having difficulty with mental illness? The reality, unfortunately, is that most of us are going to have difficulty with some form of mental illness over the course of our life. I think the stats right now are 1 in 5 Canadians, and similar numbers down in the States. So, that ends up costing the Canadian healthcare system something like $51 billion. And I think it's like 4 or 5 times that down in the States. So, this is a significant issue and something that I think we need to start talking about. So elevation process, it's really built on 3 pillars that we're going to kind of talk a little bit about today. So the first pillar is education, right? I found, when I was working with lots of the patients that come in to see me, they don't really have a good understanding of mental illness, number one, what it is, how, psychologists and counselors and some different people might be able to help them moving forward. So one of the goals, or one of the pillars of what elevation process is all about, is to provide information to people in a useful and helpful manner that's easy to access and that doesn't cost a lot of money. Pillar 2, what we're talking about here is trying to increase awareness around some of the difficulties that people have with mental health. Again, this is something that's very common, something that most of us are going to encounter over the course of our lives. And I think it's something that we all really need to start to pay attention to. I'm very happy, to see that awareness already is being increased around the world. I think Mental Health Week is actually next week, so that's good timing for the launch of our program and what we're all about. But, I think this is years in the making. Folks with mental illness are exactly the same as everyone else. And I think it's a real shame that we feel that we're less when we're having these difficulties, and also that we're treated in a different way. And I think, our society has a long way to go in order to work towards improving that. Finally, that third pillar that we talked about is altruism, or trying to give back and do something nice for the world. I think this is really an important aspect and something that I take very personally. I've made kind of the promise to set aside 10% of whatever products we sell on elevationprocess.com, specifically to give back. And again, I have to confess that I have absolutely no idea how I'm going to go about doing that at this point. But I do think it's important, and I think that it should be something that we talk about moving forward. So I'm going to be, keeping people up to date as far as how much money we've been able to accumulate via the program, and certainly also as to where that money's going and how you folks can contribute and help with that. And one of the things that I do want to talk about and make very clear As a psychologist, one of the reasons that I think something like this isn't very common, or I certainly haven't seen or know of anything like this, is because there's a huge amount of restrictions placed on us with respect to what we're actually able to do. So if you look down at the terms of use on the website, you'll see one of the big ones is that everything that is included in Elevation Process and that's put on YouTube is for entertainment and educational purposes only. Okay, I want to make it very clear that under no circumstances should you engage in any of the things that we talk about without specifically, talking with your family doctor or the person involved in your mental health care, whether that be your psychologist or psychiatrist or counselor. Okay, it's also very important to remember that we can't be getting into a personal relationship. This isn't a counseling relationship, right? Again, this is for education and entertainment purposes. So as much as I would love to help, you guys, certainly when I get emails and stuff, I'm not going to be able to respond with those. And I think, just kind of the general thing across the board is if you're having difficulty with depression, you don't know what to do, talk with your doctor. And if you don't have a doctor and you're feeling, actively suicidal, make sure you get your butt down to a hospital emergency room. That's really important. Okay. So I want to be able to have conversations with you. Again, this is a huge part of what Elevation Process is all about. But we're not going to be able to answer individual questions about you and how the difficulty that you're having in your own life. So, for example, there's nothing wrong with having a generic conversation about things like depression, anxiety, a generic kind of response around how do we manage that? How do we treat that as psychologists within the mental health community? That kind of stuff you're going to see here on this YouTube channel and certainly on some of our other social media sites. The kind of stuff you're not going to see is, John from Edmonton, Alberta is having this difficulty and this is what I would recommend. Okay? We're not allowed to do that, and we're not going to have that. So if you have any questions related to this, certainly feel free to get back to me at brandon@elevationprocess.com. And I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have. Again, it's not going to be specifically related to you. That's not something that we can engage in for legal purposes. And there's good reasons behind that. So if you're interested, this is what our Elevation Process is going to be about. So I encourage you to, if you're interested, follow us. Again, you can hit that subscribe button down below. We're going to be coming out with a ton of different content related to mental health, some of the difficulties that I think mental health is posing in the world, a lot of education, and I hope it's going to be a lot of fun. Again, this is something I'm really looking forward to. I think there's a real need for it, and I think people are going to get a lot out of this. So if you're watching this video for the first time and you're not yourself having difficulty, or someone who is having difficulty, send them the link to this video and get them caught up, because again, these are conversations that I think we need to have, and I'm very excited to be able to do this. Thanks for watching the video.